Hi, welcome back to the Origin Studio podcast. I'm going to mess up your last name, but we're going to give it a shot before I mess it up. Natalie Stavola.
Stavola. Yeah, you put an R in there, but that's good.
You know, I could have put other letters in there.
That's true.
So you are an actress, a writer, a producer, and a dating coach.
Yes.
Among many other things, it sounds like.
Correct. Career and dating coach for men.
Why did you go into specifically, I want to go into the media side.
Yes.
Before we get into the fun stuff as a teaser for everyone. So why did you get into acting?
Why?
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily had a choice. I think with some people, when you're pulled to something, you just got to do it or be miserable. What kind of choice is that?
How were you pulled to it?
I was 5 and I would watch movies, and I didn't have any particular movie. I don't have any really cool story. There was just something about humans and human behaviors and watching it on the screen. And I knew even at 5, like I would take on characters and I would pretend to perform, and I would put the Christmas boa wrapped around me and pretend that I was a 1950s like housewife with a cigarette. And I don't know where that came from at like 5 and 6, but there was something that pulled me in. And there were times where I went to college, I studied psychology, I studied criminology, I studied rate of recidivism on private prison systems and our mental health care structure comparative to other countries. Like I went in on some other things. I was not allowed to be an artist. I tried, and I only did coaching for a little bit, while I was healing and working on some other things, thinking, is it my ego, And then I was miserable. I would have panic attacks, and I would have severe depression if I wasn't creating. And so it started as I was a writer first. I would, of course, reenact things and act things out, but I became a published writer, poet at the age of 12. Wow. And then that scared me. I shelled off on that one. And then so it's been this pull and this draw forever.
There is some poet that actually writes about genius being an external force.
Ooh.
Right? Like the idea that genius is something that's outside of you. And like while you're taking a shower, all of a sudden genius comes into you and you're like, now I have nothing to write on.
There's a book about that called The Big Leap. If anyone's interested in that, they talk about that. Genius, you get your zone of excellence, and then you're comfortable in it. You're really good at it, but what's your zone of genius? And that's that thing that you tap into, that comes in the middle of the shower, and that aha moment that you got to follow.
Yeah, it waits till you're driving and you can't do anything about it. And you're like, come on.
Like I can't write a note.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so it wasn't about attention? Was it about getting into the limelight stuff? It sounds like it wasn't if you were a writer first.
Yeah, you know what? And I can't say that it wasn't. I can't say that there wasn't a part of me and isn't a part of me now that doesn't want to be seen. Don't we all? So there's that thing inside of me that I want to be seen, and I want to do something, and I want to matter. But at the same time, I remember growing up and being on stage and being absolutely terrified of being seen through. So
what do you mean by that?
I'm found out, not good enough, not enough, lacking. I remember I quit everything. I quit gymnastics. I quit dance. I quit band. I quit instruments. I just quit. But there was the one thing inside of me that was like, I remember I graduated college, and I was like, you know what? If I suck at acting, I don't care. I'm going to do this until I'm great at it. So I don't know. I think it's that catch-22 of I want to be seen, but I'm scared of being exposed. I'm scared of being found out that I'm not good enough.
So are you saying that in one capacity, it was like, I want attention, but I don't want to be being somebody else, being a character, kind of is a defensive mechanism, even though it still provides me with an attention thing?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
Although I think that we do that as humans, chameleons. You walk into certain rooms and you act whatever the room is, right? And then we have imposter syndrome. I really do think that media and that the arts is just a mirror to humanity. It's why it's always been interesting to me when people point the finger at Hollywood and blame everything on Hollywood, where I'm like, I've worked and been in other industries. I've seen the exact same good and bad in other industries, right? Although, of course, it could be quite egregious in film and everything. We don't exactly have HR. But it's power dynamics or lack of empathy or, pain or whatever. It's very interesting. I do look at media and films as a mirror to humanity. And I do think that there's a lot of us that'll push the envelope to either help, or you can, do things in media that can create more brainwashing and propaganda, for instance.
We had a guy named Ric Flair. I don't know if you've ever heard of this wrestler.
No. Oh, maybe. I grew up going to WWE and F and NWO.
So he sat in that same chair for a different show, and I asked him. I access to a lot of these people, even if they're not on my show, which is nice.
Yeah.
But I asked him, I said, you created this incredible character, and is there still a version of the old you, or have you become the character? Is that now all you've got left? And he's like, it's all that's left. There's nothing else there. And the host of that particular show thought that was really sad. But I thought, you could create the person you want to be, live into that, and then become that. Now, as a writer and an actress, have you seen any parallels to that? Have you changed who you are based off of this would be the ideal of what I want to become?
I don't think that that's just based on acting and writing. I think that that's all of us. Manifestation coaches talk about that all the time, right? Who do you want to become that's going to deserve and get and achieve the things and get the money? And you remember if you've ever heard of it before, people have talked about, someone will get up or do really well, and then they'll be like, oh, you've changed. And I love the response to that, which is, aren't we supposed to? So I agree. I don't think that that's sad at all. I think that he knew who he wanted to be. He had it in his mind's eye, and how beautiful he got to become that. I think that as artists and as writers, we tap into it more because we step into it more. But that's been the key to manifesting the life of your dreams anyway, attacking those negative voices. And for instance, in coaching, when I coach people, we identify what are your goals and who do you want to be? How do you want to behave, right? Because if you're constantly berating yourself and hurting yourself, causing yourself harm, sabotaging, right? That's a version of you that's pain, that's hurting yourself. So wouldn't you want to step into something that treats yourself better and receives better?
Yes, but there's also the flip side.
What's the flip side of that?
Well, as a writer, not every story is a romance. Not every story is a comedy, right? And so
especially the way I wrote. I only wrote dark things in slam poetry, so of course. But even that is a transmutable. That's human. Just so we're clear, when I think about the integration of things, I don't think that you're stepping into something and you're only positive and sunshine and snowflakes and rainbows and unicorns coming out of your you-know-what. Absolutely not. It means integration of the shadow, which is that I embrace and accept that I'm going to experience anxiety, jealousy, grief, rage, anger, all of it, because that's what makes me human. That's the beauty.
We've evoked Carl Jung.
I love him. I love him.
They used to say that Elvis was moving his hips, implying sexuality. They wanted to ban his music. Now they want to ban video games for their violence, thinking that. And I've always thought that was complete BS. And then somebody gave me the opposite perspective and said, well, do you think there's books that can make you a better person? Do you think there's music that can make you a better person? Mm-hmm. Then why wouldn't you think that there is a movie that can make you a worse person? And vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is if you're writing dark stuff,
right?
You also might be manifesting those bad things to become part of your identity.
Kind of. I see what you mean and I see what they mean. However, there's kind of a caveat to that and another side that they're not really looking at. One, it's your belief system with those things and your relationship to those shaking of the hips, right? Sure. So when you bury things in the subconscious, you become what you shove in the dark. So if I, one great exercise, for instance, that I teach my clients or that I do is called free association. It's when you journal and you journal everything out and you just get it out of your head, right? And the wonderful thing about that is that it actually helps you purge and dump so that it's not sitting in you. And then you can get to the good stuff, and then you can get to the light, and then you can get to your solution. But usually, typically what we see is what you are afraid of, you'll manifest until you kind of work on those fears, So some people who are afraid of Elvis gyrating his hips because it's so sexual, typically what we'll see is that it's not Elvis, it's them. They're afraid of their own sexuality. They're afraid of someone cheating on them. That's their fear. And now they might do manifest destiny. They might do a self-fulfilling prophecy and do something and then blame it on Elvis. And it's nah, that was in your subconscious.
So you're saying it's like the cautionary tale of Genie in the Lamp or Aladdin in the Lamp, right? Be careful what you wish for.
Absolutely. I would say it's okay to let your subconscious out. I think that we've been programmed to be very afraid of the sin or of the shadow or of the negative emotions that we don't like. We're so icky. But what I found is when we're afraid of those things and you try and run from them and you're secretly ruled by them and you can kind of be easily, propagandized or buy things to make yourself feel better. Escapism. You're more likely to go into get that thing or run or do the thing that's going to make you feel better, buy the thing on the commercial. it's just one of those things because those are what you call dark psychology. They are certain media, certain ads, certain advertisements are geared toward your insecurities. So if I'm writing my insecurities, as dark and crazy as it is, if I'm writing out my wounds, I'm going to become aware of them. I'm going to be less likely to fall trap to them and fall prey to them.
We've gotten really deep in psychology, starting from an acting standpoint.
Yeah. It's human behavior.
Yeah, it is human behavior. And I guess acting falls into that. By the way, what's harder, acting, writing, or producing?
I think it depends on your skill set and your belief system. I'm not sure because I've watched some people who are, phenomenal with acting and have had no blocks. They just like step in and it's just been boom, 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 right? And then when it comes to writing, that's where they're scared and because they really want to tell their own story. And I think with producing, again, it depends. For me, for my own experience, my hardest thing has been having no blocks and like career success in acting where I've noticed I've had to do more work and more inner work around that versus writing always came pretty easily for me. Producing, especially as I've started my own company, I've really understood dynamics and building teams.
One of the things that fascinates me, and I'm only recently dealing with it, online, we've had kind of a clear slate. You could do whatever you wanted on the internet, right?
Yeah.
But Hollywood has been a little bit handcuffed for a long time on a lot of different things. And it seems like if you don't play along with what the club is doing, you're out. And yet you're supposed to come up with something that's new and original and diverse and creative and clever. I don't exactly understand how you're supposed to do that.
Yeah. Again, I'm not sure if I see it necessarily that way. I think I know what you're saying. You can get on the internet and be egregious and be sensationalized, right? And you'll gain a following. But you can also wind up doing something wildly inappropriate and getting shut down or, people kind of going, that's absolutely terrible, whatever. Especially right now, we're seeing like a rise of disrespect and a rise of like condescension and disregard for others. And then people applauding it because, again, that's their shadow they've shoved down, right? So if they see something that's their shadow out loud, the negative voices in their head, someone saying it, they suddenly feel seen. So I think that when we see that you run a risk. You run a risk. And you'll either be rewarded or you won't. So I think that we have the same thing in media. You run a risk and you can either be rewarded or you won't. Studios are the ones that, of course, they're more money. They're less likely to take that kind of risk. But I think you can still do it. I think you can still take that risk.
Do you play more in the independent realm?
Independent, yeah.
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 Because I just see like if you're a Republican, like you're out. If you're nudity, big in the 90s and 2000s.
Right.
Now, out. And like,
I think it might be back in again.
Is it back?
It might be back in. Yeah. There's like no rules on that one anymore. It's like it doesn't affect your career. Go for it.
Well, yeah, it doesn't seem to affect careers, but it was almost a requirement at a certain time frame. And then they like flipped it where it was like, we don't do that anymore. And then
we're flipping more that way again. We're flipping more conservative that way. That's why.
I see a lot of like, if you don't have a same-sex relationship in a show, you don't get to have a show, or it seems that way.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not. I see these trends where it's just like, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
But it also seems to be very restricting.
Yes and no. I think what it is this is what happens in dating and this is what happens in human behavior. We go from one extreme to the other until someone freaking heals and leads the way and starts that middle ground, right? So we pendulum swing. So for instance, everything is yin and yang, everything has its balance, and equal reaction, right? Science, whatever, you can do all that. So when you have something like passion, the opposite opposing side is anger. If you don't have anger, if you don't know anger, you're never going to know passion and vice versa. Now what happens is that if you stay too far on one side, it'll create dissonance, discontent, and disarray, and a whole mess. Even with passion, that's high. That's getting high on life and high on things. You cannot possibly stay high. You will crash. That's like someone who's constantly doing heroin and ecstasy or something. Like you're going to come down. So you go from one extreme to the other, swinging because something's not fully landing. Something's not right. Something's off, right? And we have that in dating. A lot of people, for instance, A lot of people in dating will go from isolating and having no one and no dates to like all of a sudden they're dating a bunch of people, but these people are, not the right fit. Or they'll go from dating, this is a big one, they'll go from dating someone extremely toxic to extremely boring.
I could see that.
Yeah. So what we're seeing in media is we're seeing the same swings. And so it's just people are relating to these extremes, but we've known this for a long, long time. It's, again, sensationalization. If we can jump your heart rate, whether it's an extreme negative or extreme positive, I've got you. Instagram figured that out. Meta figured that out, 15 years ago? So I think that that's what it is in media as well, too. Again, it comes back to, I do believe that Hollywood and media is just a reflection and a mirror to human society. It's frustrating.
So where are we going?
I don't know.
Like human society.
Oh.
Right now,
where do you want to go?
No, it just seems like if we're talking about human society and like if it's a reflection of us,
right?
We seem to be just a big consumerist organization that also creates wars continually. That seems to be our move, right?
Yeah.
That can't be a sustainable long-term vision of what we want to be.
Well, I think we're kind of in the middle of finding out whether or not it's going to be sustainable. But no, to answer your question, I agree. I think where we're going is consciousness. We're leveling up in consciousness. Human behavior and human primal doesn't change. Fight, flight, fawn, and freeze. Doing things that are, let's say, your necessities. Certain things won't change, right? But our level of consciousness and conscientiousness and our ability to recognize other people and care for other people, I think that's grown. We see that every about 3 decades. We see a shift in consciousness. There's a term for it, and I can't remember, but there's an effect. I think it's called like the monkey effect or something like that. They notice that a shift in consciousness will happen in one state in the world, and then the other side of the world, the same shift in consciousness will happen around the same time. Even though these people aren't talking to each other, they're not related in any way, but some realization and big thing will happen here, and the same exact thing will happen here. So what we're seeing is that we're all interconnected. Everything is interconnected. So I think where we're going is...
Those are cultural differences?
Yes.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Where do you think we're going?
I think where we're going is the shift in consciousness, coming back to ourselves, coming back to each other, because we drifted. We drifted into escapism, into mind-numbing things, into... scapegoating, into escaping our own bodies. You can even do it in spirituality. It's called spiritual bypassing.
What is spiritual bypassing?
Ooh, let me tell you. How much more time we got? So spiritual bypassing. I love this. So there's people who, and I'm sure people have seen it in like the spiritual communities, they can get super annoying where they're like, anger is a low vibration. And you're like, shut up. No, it's not. It's a human experience. So people are so afraid of emotions. They are so afraid of themselves. They are so afraid of their shadow that you can use meditation and spirituality as a way of like getting out of and dissociating from your body just so you don't feel pain or experience those negative, icky emotions.
That is weird.
What?
That's so strange to me.
How? People do drugs to do that. They drink to do that. They have sex to do that.
Because drugs takes you there really fast, right?
You can get there fast with meditation.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I'm like a perpetual meditator, and like,
yeah.
But I'm very low on the drug use side of things, and like the amount of time it takes for me to have an effect from meditation is a long time.
Right.
So. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that somebody would do that, but like, man, there's easier ways to get there if you're trying to disassociate.
Right. Listen, not arguing with you, but I think that they're, condoning it in their minds of being like, well, it's not drugs, but mind you, then they're taking a whole bunch of like shrooms and LSD and, ayahuasca. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people used to do that for escapism, and I'm not saying they don't do that for escapism, but there's now a whole new movement around like hallucinogens and stuff.
Oh my God.
I think they're trying to at least fiddle with the idea of developing as a human being.
Yeah. What I've noticed too is that some of them will, I've seen a lot of them that'll shame AA and shame 12-step programs, right? And because they'll go, oh, well, you can get there, you can heal your addiction through ayahuasca and taking drugs. And I'm like, can you? Okay, interesting. And then what I'll notice is that some of them become so entrenched in shamanism, and which is nothing wrong with, but they'll become so constantly doing every week and every weekend and maybe like 5 days a week, mushrooms, K, and ayahuasca, that they realize that actually they're doing the exact same thing that an addict's doing, which is they're chasing something. They're chasing a high and they're escaping because they don't feel like they can do that in their own bodies.
Let's switch gears.
Let's do it. Sixth or fifth?
Fourth.
Okay, let's do it.
We still got some time to speed up. So, dating.
Yes.
Why are you a dating coach?
Why not?
I can give you a bunch of reasons why not. I can give you a bunch. So first off, you're specifically coaching men.
Yeah, I coach women too.
Oh, you do?
I do. But my style is just, obviously you can tell, a little bit more in your face with things. I have a tendency to pull in. I started off as a dating coach for men, a wing woman for men, which I was like, this is stupid. I don't need to teach pickup because pickup doesn't matter anyway. You can
wing woman.
Yes.
A pivot.
A pivot. I learned a long time ago that you could walk up to anyone and say squid plus orange equals banana, and if it's your person, you'll get married next year. It just doesn't matter. You can look like an idiot on the first date. You can screw up everything. You could say the wrong thing. It just doesn't matter. What's meant for you is yours. There's no escaping that, which is great. Well, I mean, I guess you can't escape it if you want to.
I mean, that sounds like the only limitation, if that's the case, is reps. That just sounds like keep approaching people.
Keep approaching people, or keep, working on yourself and showing up and allowing yourself to be open and doing that inner work. But to answer your question on why dating is, that's just something that I stumbled into. I got sober about 8 years ago, and I needed to do a lot of inner work and healing. And I had to take a break from producing, acting, writing. And so I needed to figure out, okay, I need to make money. I need something sustainable. I couldn't seem to get an executive assistant job, exec jobs. Like I was very surprised, but I was still very much so like trying to live in my own skin and not escape the world anymore. Right? That's how I know so much about escapism. I did it. So I thought about going back to school and getting my PhD to become a therapist. But what happened was, like, I saw how much work I would need to do. And I would still have to like work at a restaurant or something, or like scrape by. And that made me keel over. And I barely cried. I cried for about a week just in the fetal position, because I thought, this is what the universe wants me to do. I'm supposed to be of service, and I'm good at it. I'm great at helping others. Didn't know how to help myself, but could help anyone. Right. So I was like, I must have to do this and give up everything. And I was so in pain. It hurt so badly. And I wound up calling someone. A friend of mine is a great spiritual advisor. And I was like, I guess this is what the universe wants me to do, because aren't we supposed to be of service? And she was like, wait a minute. No, if it's in your heart, if you say it and it hurts your heart, that's not what you're supposed to do. And she's like, if it's something that makes you really sad, that's not what you're supposed to do. In life, you're supposed to learn how to, you get to learn how to fall in love with yourself and fall in love with your life. That's the whole purpose. And find the people that you get to do that with. That's life, relationships. And it was this huge, like, pivotal moment. It's like, what a foreign concept. Like, if something makes me sad, I'm not supposed to do it. Now, this applies to dating too, right? Of course, we'll experience sadness, but who do I get to feel safe with and experience that sadness with? So all of a sudden I was like, okay, let me do this. I know me. I know that when I'm impulsive, oh my goodness, I make the wrong decisions. I thought I should do Lyft. I totaled my car, wound up in more debt. I should do this. I should do this. Wound up in more debt here and here. And I went, all right, that's it, universe. I'm done. I'm so done.
Is that a true story?
This is a true story. I kept making impulsive decisions because I was financially in fear. So when I was financially in fear, I pushed the fear down, right? And I was secretly ruled by that fear. So I consistently made decisions based on secret fear that proved the point that I was financially insecure. So I lost a lot of money. I did a lot of stupid things. So finally I gave up, threw my hands up and went, I'm done. I'm so done. I'm done making decisions. I'm done making the wrong decisions. I'm done being impulsive. Like, universe, you show me. I'm going to keep putting, feelers out and expressing that I want to show up and maybe counsel, maybe do something. Like, I'm going to keep showing up and putting out applications, but universe, you show me where I'm supposed to be. And so finally I gave it a couple days. I was, trying to work as a social media content creator and social media manager for people. It was miserable. Was working as a hostess at this restaurant. Amazing. Loved it. Got to reframe working in the industry and really see people through a better light. And then one day the phone rings within a week and my friend goes, hey, I know that you're looking for something. One of our friends is a dating coach for men. I think you guys would be a good fit. And I got on the phone with her and we talked, and she was like, what's your overall objective in life? And I was like, I want to overcome all of my obstacles and teach people how to fall in love with themselves and do the same. And she goes, great, that's exactly what we do here. And I felt it in my gut. Not anxiety, this like whoosh, do this. That's what I did.
How does that differ? There was that time when Mystery and Neil Strauss and all these guys were doing.
I know some of those guys. Yeah.
Of course you do.
Well, some of the ones that studied under them, I know, yeah.
Yeah. The Mystery method or whatever. And it seemed like it was quite directed at manipulation.
It is.
Yeah.
Didn't say 1,000%. You caught it. Continue.
Sure. And it sounds like what you're focusing on is about making somebody right with themselves in hopes to make them okay with society.
Yes, 1,000%. What you see outside of you is a reflection of what's going on inside of you, right? So if you're dating women and you're feeling like you're not getting the right type, or you have to do this, or you have to manipulate, if you play games, you're only going to get a woman who plays games too. You're done. You're going to be a vibrational match with that. So what I do is I help people identify what it is that you really want, and then what's blocking you from that. What are the voices inside of your head saying? And then what we do is I do NLP. So I go to their baseline and I help them flip that baseline of like, I'm not good enough. Women always leave me. I always get gold diggers. It's always one step forward, two steps back. I'm never going to get what I want. It doesn't exist. I'm not attractive enough. Blah, 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 blah. All BS. All BS. And so I help them reframe that and transition that and start moving and behaving differently and creating a new set of belief systems. So that way, naturally, subconsciously, when they go out, they're talking to the right woman instead of the gold digger and the toxic one, right? And I teach them how to spot that. But it's all about authenticity, no games, no gimmicks, no manipulation.
So if you can change what you like. So here, okay, let's get personal. My issue with dating is that I'm attracted to a very particular kind of person.
Yes.
Right? I know that person's toxic.
Okay.
100% know it. I got it.
I love
the
this.
world has given me the feedback.
Right?
It's not that easy. Like, if it was just so easy to change your preference, we wouldn't have a country full of obese people.
My goodness.
Right?
Right.
So like clearly we have a mechanism in us that connects us with, boy, that cheeseburger's tasty. And we have that all the time, right? And in mainstream media, in this podcast, I hate to say it, you're going to get more views because you're pretty.
That's fine.
Right?
Yeah. I'm fine with this one.
Okay. But if you weren't, you're going to get less.
Oh, I don't know. We do see a lot of people that are like quite interesting, getting a ton of. But anyway, continue. Right. Right.
Not the rule.
I get to hit a certain thing maybe a little bit faster. But yes.
Yeah. There's an advantage.
There's an advantage,
right? Because society does frame one thing as a preference over another thing.
Yes.
Right? So I look at it and I go, really pretty people.
Yes.
They end up commoditizing their looks because not by their own choice.
No.
But because society inflicts it upon them.
Thank you for recognizing that, by the way, too.
Oh,
Yeah.
life taught me lessons. Right. And then it's not uncommon for them to look for validation outside of a relationship when the relationship doesn't provide enough validation for them to say, hey, my currency isn't getting filled up. Am I losing my looks? Anyways.
Oh, yeah, perhaps. But again, that depends on the person and the inner work that they've done. If they know that it's like, okay, great, we live in a society that I get to commodify my looks and utilize that for the greater good, great. It's like dark psychology. So all of us will use dark psychology. We use it in platforms, media. We use it because dark psychology, not to scare anyone, all it is that I'll use a pain point. So the advertisement will be like, are you a man in your late 30s looking for love, but you constantly feel alone and isolated? Great. Boom. Dark psychology. So, but I know that if I get you in based on your pain and your wound, I know I'm going to help.
So how do you change what somebody likes?
Yes. Great question. So like you said,
if I like hamburgers or if I like supermodels,
yeah,
to me, both of those are delicious and toxic.
Of course. Well, yeah, I could see that. Some I've had some good ones.
I've had a great burger.
I've had it right.
I've
had some good.
I'm not saying all burgers. I'm just saying most are not healthy.
I love this. Not all burgers are bad, okay?
But all women are commoditized to being food.
Yeah, right. Right. We are a snack. Stop it. I used to scream at people who would hit on me too. Was not in the commodifying of my looks thing. And it's funny because I did it to my clients too. Like my client, just sideways, but we'll come back. My clients would be like, don't all women love to be hit on Instagram now? I was like, sure don't. They definitely don't. And they're like, how do you know? I'm like, because I will cuss you out. I do that. Like I had to like screenshot it and send it to my therapist. I'm like, look at what this. Like, that's just a compliment. Anyways, so no, not all women like to be compliment or hit on. Compliments are fine, but
Well, the quantity.
yeah,
The quantity's got to be outrageous.
yeah.
I mean, it's not for men, but I got to think it is for women. If I messaged a woman online and she was like, yeah, I'm totally interested in that, I'd be like, red flag.
Right? Exactly. Like, hi, total stranger that we just met, and I'm just commenting on your body on a platform, a meaningless platform. So to answer your question on how do we change that, it's a subconscious thing. It's a programming thing. So what we found, to go back to Carl Jung, what we found is that your subconscious mind is formed from the ages of 2 to 10 up to 14, unless you have another like traumatic event or something that can reframe your brain, sure. But your subconscious mind, your belief systems are framed from the ages of 2 to 10 up to 14. So how you take in the world gets lodged into your brain, right? So you could have an amazing childhood, but if you constantly got hugged every time you got an A and you did a touchdown or you did a good thing, what would happen is your brain could potentially decide that love looks like giving and that you have to constantly give in order to receive love, that your worth is in what you do for others, right? Your parents didn't do that. They're congratulating you. That's a normal thing. Another kid might not frame their world that way at all, but your brain made the decision that it was like, man, the only way for me to receive love is that I have to constantly like do good and do something, right? So now I don't feel good just being me. So what happens is now, so that's running your behaviors. Later on in life, let's say that you date someone and they ignore you, but then you buy a bunch of things for them and they give you attention, boom, now you have a confirmation bias and a self-fulfilling prophecy. You have a belief system that's been reaffirmed by something, even though you might have 10 other people that made you feel great just being you, that one person that confirmed the negative belief system, boom, now you're off to the races. So what'll happen is subconsciously you'll be attracted to, because attraction is a manifestation of chemistry and internal belief systems. You will be attracted to anyone that makes you feel like you're not good enough and you have to prove yourself.
That's dark.
Right? No, yeah, but it's great. It's just information. It's like a video game.
That doesn't seem healthy.
No, but we do that. So how to reframe it and how to find it is when you're dating someone or when you're around things, like journal that out, get out the dark stuff, right? Free association. Why am I attracted to this person? What is it that it's triggering in me? What's the sadness? What are the voices in my head saying? So what you do is a quick one is you can write down all the things that you want in a relationship. And then as you're writing that down, your ideal woman or your ideal man, there's voices that are going to come out of your head. It's going to say, yeah, right. That's never going to work out for you. It's never going to be you. Only other men get that. You always get the toxic ones. All the ones that you see are toxic. These are what's called limiting beliefs. Those are what's secretly ruling your behavior, right? Anyone can hack this and hack their own brain and do it. I do recommend working with someone because it can be difficult to tackle your own brain when the voices are the same as your own. So I even have like 3 coaches I work with. So now all of a sudden you have your limiting beliefs. Now what you can do is you can journal and find out when is the first time that seed was planted. So the first time I ever felt like I have to give in order to receive love or I have to prove myself. Oh, I was 5 years old and my dad said, you're never going to be good enough. You're never going to be good enough like your brother Greg. And you're like, oh. So every time that you're around a woman that makes you feel like you're not good enough, your memory of when you were 5 with your dad is actually getting activated and it's confirming that belief system. So what you do is you can go back into that memory, and I call it like a reframe, reprogram, reparent. You go back in and you can just take a deep breath, go back into that memory, pull it up, and then you can tell yourself and tell that 5-year-old, explain what's going on. Your dad was an a-hole. He should not have said that. That is not what was happening. Turns out your brother Greg's in prison right now, so good thing you didn't turn out like him. And you start stacking evidence of like, what's the truth? The truth is that if everyone else is good enough just being, and you can see that, and you would never make someone prove themselves just to love them, then why is it that you're any different? So all of a sudden, the truth is, no, I am worthy and I am good enough and I am good enough to receive good things without having to prove myself. I don't need to prove myself anymore. Boom. Now you've got a new belief system. Now what you want to do is you want to actively start kind of behaving with that, and you'll get better at it. You'll reaffirm it every day. And then eventually what will happen is the other one goes away because it just can't hold water anymore because you already know that it came from your dad. So naturally, you tell your brain, start looking for evidence to support that I'm good enough. And here's now, moving forward, here's a boundary. This is why. To answer your question, why we'll go for that cheeseburger and the toxic woman versus the healthy choice and like maybe a burger that's, I don't know, lettuce wrapped, but also has like good, whole.
I like all my women lettuce wrapped.
Right? Right? Who doesn't?
Of course.
So how you keep doing it and how you keep going towards it is Give me a second. Let me remember where I was at, because now I'm thinking about burgers, and I love burgers.
Let me ask you, does this still apply if it was culturally imposed or even genetically imposed? And what I mean by that is, when I was a kid,
Yes.
the standard of beauty for a female was rail thin. And I'm that's pretty burnt into my psyche, right? But then the Kardashians come out and they're like, it's all about having a big butt.
Right.
And society literally like turns on a dime. And I do a lot of photography, videography, and younger people are like, no, I want to look this way. And it's like, so culture clearly had the influence there. This was not genetic.
Correct.
However, you can also run studies where you put up people on camera in front of people, and the men will go, okay, bigger hips or boobs or whatever. They go, okay, this has to be genetically driven, right?
That one's
but
cultural.
maybe it's not.
That's culture, because there's a study that came out. I love this question. There's a study that came out that they did that. They ran a test and they gave it to a photographer who edits. They gave one photo of this woman and they sent it out to the top editors and all around the world. And they did, hey, edit this photo based on your beauty standards of your culture. And the results were insane. The standards of beauty for each culture were different. And you're right, it changes. Marilyn Monroe would be a size 8 today, and she was considered the definition of beauty. So it changes all the time. So it's kind of frivolous to sit there and try and keep up with standards that, honestly, it's only temporary. As you learn and heal, like, I mean, let's be honest, are you super attracted to women that are rail thin still, or has it grown and adjusted? Or have you noticed that you've dated?
But I do think there's genetic factors. Like, I do think that I wouldn't be attracted to somebody that was really unhealthy.
Of course.
But also...
but that's primal. You wouldn't want to do that anyway, because the survival of your kin can't go on, or that person will die and leave you alone. Yeah. That's, oh my goodness. That's incredibly
we demonize
psyche.
women that are gold diggers, right? But like, from an evolutionary standpoint, they're trying to look out for their young and make sure that, like, there is things that are bred into us that are... So my question is, whether we're talking about DNA, culture, or... my dad did this weird thing when I was a kid. Right. Like, which ones of these are reprogrammable? Because it doesn't seem like DNA would be, but it does. It certainly seems like the dad one could be.
Yeah. Although when you say the DNA one, I do think that you might mean your neural programming in your brain.
Well, I'm just saying, like, survival of the species, my brain's going to do something to try and survive.
Right. So that's actually, you can reprogram that.
Oh, you can? So
yes. You can change your neural programming. Across the board. Absolutely. Across the board, you can actually change your IQ. A lot of people who think that you can't change their IQ, they'll just stay the same. But studies have shown that you can actually up your IQ. You can change your neural programming. You can change just about anything. You can actually change the way that you see yourself too. You change internally, you change externally. You change what you see. If you don't like what you see, change internally.
Okay. So this show is all about media. We've talked so much about it. But there are these podcasts where they bring in all these OnlyFans girls.
Yes.
And the guys just kind of beat up on them. And it's not a fair fight at all.
No.
And it's easy to sell the show because you've got a bunch of beautiful women that are not psychologically prepared for professional debaters that are going to go up against them. What impact has this had on the dating world?
Great question. I don't think it's just that one. I think it's media in general. I think that people have created think tanks based on confirmation bias and self-fulfilling prophecy, right? We see it in the red pill community. We see it in...
Define the red pill community?
Yeah. So the red pill community was created, it's egregious, but it was created because there were these men who were very hurt by women and dating and life. And so they decided to form a community, which is great, to be with each other and be around each other. Not be with each other, but to be... Freudian
Depends
slip.
on what
It's
pill.
Probably that. You are what you're afraid of. So to be around each other and to offer community support. What happened though is that their anger, their resentfulness, their disgustingness inside of themselves, because they're so afraid of journaling out their scary stuff. But the things inside of them that they're afraid to take a look at, of like maybe their part in picking the wrong woman, it becomes this festered thing, and they punch down on and they annihilate and berate women and just attack them and other men. This is where the groups of men will be. They're really awful to other men.
The other men?
Yes, they'll berate other men, but they'll berate men in general. You're weak. You're nothing. You're pathetic. I'm the alpha male, and like. It's interesting because they're going based off a study that was done that a scientist did about wolves in captivity. These wolves in captivity were taken from places all over the world and put together, and they didn't talk or communicate. So this guy wrote a book saying that alpha wolves, all are alone and isolative.
And
then
he ended up retracting that.
Did. And then
nobody paid attention.
No, of course not. Because again, remember, that's not the sensationalized thing. That's not the thing that's secretly hiding and lurking in their shadows of the brain. Suddenly they feel like, yes, that's right. I'm an alpha male because no one likes me and I talk to myself only. But that's what an alpha male is. I just am mean to other people, and then people scatter from me. And then actually turns out an alpha wolf and alpha male is actually someone who finds his alpha female, and they start their own pack and they lead together. Which is actually primal. Back in the day, primal, men and women, hunter, gatherer. Women were also part of the workforce. We gathered. That's a work. That's a job. Men can't go out and hunt all year long. So we're like, honey, I got it. Like, we got a bunch of nuts and seeds and all that. So men actually, back in the olden times, were the ones that stabilized the family and stabilized the community because they taught emotional security to the children. They were always arm's distance away. They taught and provided protection. You can't be protective and offer protection if you're freaking nuts and hate everyone. You're unstable. So we see that with the OnlyFans guy, or those guys that pick those women that are OnlyFans. And there's nothing wrong with OnlyFans. But they pick.
I beg to differ.
What? But I'm always like, to each their own. It's always my relationship to it, right? Or your relationship to it. I'm not going on there. But I would if I don't know. I can't say that I would or wouldn't. If there's something good on there, sure. I don't know. But it's always in relation to how you feel about things. So I don't, anyway. So with those guys, because they're angry and they think women are dumb and beneath them, they'll pick women that, perhaps don't really care about psychology or other women or themselves. So they'll bring those ones on to poke fun at, or to say something, or to ask them a question that they're not going to know the answer to, all just so they can create their own confirmation bias and be like, look, see, dumb blonde over here. I'm like, ooh, get me on there.
Well, they're also not talking about their expertise, right?
No.
If they were talking to them about like online marketing, those girls are probably crushing it.
They know exactly when to post and how to market and how to do media, all of it. They could lead classworks and master classes on that stuff. That's why I can't sit here and shame anyone on OnlyFans, because they know what they're commodifying, and they're making money.
Don't you think from a cultural standpoint there is actual damage being done? And let me give you an example of maybe why.
Yes.
So if you go back to that old tribe that you were talking about,
yes.
And you're in a tribe of, let's say, 150 people. I don't know. Dunbar's number says we were in the 220s or something. Okay. But you're in this small tribe. There's only going to be a few people that you even could connect with, right, within that tribe. So your standards are going to be significantly lower. And the risk of a separation, like, you're probably never going to find somebody again. And now we're in a situation where every single person on the internet seems to be at our disposal at any given time. And sex seems something that I can pay for on the internet,
sure.
Right? So all of these things that we used to like, there was rarity to it, there was scarcity, which creates value. All of those have gone away. There's no scarcity to it.
I disagree.
You disagree?
Oh, I do, but I love
Tell
this.
me.
Give it. So your vibe attracts your tribe, right? Now, back in the day, already
slangs. It's a rapper. Jeez.
Right?
Okay.
It's so people can memorize that at home. Get out your pen and pencil.
Yeah, there's going to be a study thing later on.
Exactly.
There'll be a test.
Yeah. How do you overcome your limiting beliefs? Go. So your vibe attracts your tribe, right? Now, what we've seen is that back in the day too, people would, if they wanted to get away from that tribe, they felt ostracized or not a part of or whatever, they would go off into the woods and they would find another tribe, or they would start their own. They could start their own 220.
Die.
Maybe, sure, but we have that today. How many people die because they can't get access to healthcare, right?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if you leave your tribe, we're not very good surviving by ourselves.
No, but typically you'll find your other tribe, or you'll start one, or you'll go off with. So, and that tribe will grow. But you have a tendency to kind of stay with and be around and gravitate towards that which you attract and that which it's inside of you. So that tribe, typically, it's like, sure, there might be a smaller numbers, but they wouldn't have perceived it that way. 200 would have been a massive amount for them. So in those things, based on like attraction and survival and just very primal things, they would have been able to procreate, do it, obviously, because today we have 3 billion. How many people are on the planet?
Oh, I don't know.
3.82
I know about
billion.
50.
You're right. Yeah. That's a lot. So in today's society, you're correct on this one. What happens is we escape. Now, the effects of media. this is what I've studied, and this is what I've seen, is that it depends on what you're watching and whether or not it's degrading and dehumanizing to others. That's actually what winds up changing your psyche. And what like studies showed, like I studied this one a long time ago. There was a study that got done when they studied men who watched porn, 3 different men, and they did 3 different test groups with it. They did men who watched erotic, just your regular standard lovey-dovey, consensual, like actually give the woman an orgasm, that one. And then they had...
I'm so clipping this.
Right?
No matter what happens, this is being clipped.
Wait, like clip to go out there? Or like
I'm gonna clip a little Instagram video.
Yeah. This is great. And then they had the men that... didn't watch porn at all. And then they had another test group that men who watched hardcore porn. Now, what they did with these men is a series of tests over a long period of time. They actually had these men start watching clips of women who were on trial and basically saying that, someone had raped them, right? I'm not allowed to say that on this. That's okay. Someone had taken advantage of them. So what we found is that the men who didn't watch porn and the men who watched consensual porn all sided with the woman, and they saw, and it was all shown that these women were all that had happened, and so they actually sided with the woman, saw the evidence, and they actually felt and empathized with the woman. Now, the group predominantly that watched, pretty much all of the men that watched hardcore all said that she had asked for it, what was she wearing, and it was her fault and she's lying. So to answer...
So media influences bias.
Right, but depending on what that media is, we can't just blanket it and go all media influences, right? It's what is it and what is it doing? Is it dehumanizing someone? Is it disrespecting and condescending and vilifying? So with film, for instance, when we go back to that, one of the third film, it's the third film I want to say. It's one of the first films in America. Can't believe I'm going to say this, but whatever. One of the first films in America, black and white film. It was called A Birth of a Nation. It showed white women being harassed and brutalized, right, by a black man, and white men coming in and saving the day. Now, this was played over and over and over again. People actually started to believe that black men hurt white women and that white women saved the day. And this was programmed into our brains, and we're still seeing the effects and the ramifications of that film to this day. So media does influence a lot. There's subliminal things, and it's, are we dehumanizing? So to bring it back to, yes, some films are overdoing it perhaps, or really trying hard to put in diversity and gay and this and that, because I'm fine with the pendulum swinging a little bit further on this way right now, because there's so many people who are still programmed with dehumanizing others, disrespecting others, condescending others, that to push a little bit harder right now on just get people used to and reprogrammed with black is safe, black is fine, black is not bad, black is not dangerous, Latin is safe, Latin is fine, Latin is not dangerous, gay is not going to fucking convert you, oops, I swore, whatever. But if we can reprogram people subliminally or in their fucking face, it doesn't always have to be shoved down your throat, but sometimes do it, then we can kind of start pulling away from what we see in the effects of negative media or dehumanizing media.
So if we were to take this to the dating scene, and
Yes.
we've got these apps where you bring up 1 million people and you just swipe.
Right.
It seems like there's no end in sight for how many people you can swipe on. So doesn't that kind of dehumanize people?
Yes and no, it can or it can't. I think that depends on the person. Again, if you're showing up and you dehumanize anyway, yeah, sure, you're going to. If you show up and you're a good person, but you're escaping, it's never going to be enough anyway. And that doesn't matter if you have an app. You're going to go out and you're going to do that anyway. But
my point is that, part of my point on this is that you're just showing a photo. That's literally all we're giving people anymore.
There's information, right? And I'll teach
how often
people.
Did you get to that?
Right? No, but I do. I teach my clients. You can read. I'll teach my clients NLP as I break them through my program. But I'll actually teach them how to read a person based on what they say or don't say, and the photos that they put up. Everyone reveals themselves. You can be on a date with someone, and within the first half hour, you'll be able to find out whether or not there's some alignment there, if there's chemistry there, and if they've done any inner work whatsoever. If they're down to show up, or if they're even ready to, or at least looking for a relationship versus someone who's casual.
Cool. So according to, I believe, a study done by Plenty of Fish,
yes,
it showed that women believe that 80% of men are below average and they only want to date the top 5%. Have you heard of this?
No. I'm sure men have the same thing. We all do numbering systems. I mean, we don't all, but.
Well, what's fascinating about that is if that's true, what ends up happening, let's just play the narrative that that's true.
Yeah.
What that would mean would be that there's like a very small percentage of men that are getting all the female attention out there. And those men probably wouldn't be incentivized to have a long-term relationship because they're getting so much attention from so many different people.
Sure.
And so it seems that operation, that mechanism in here is changing the way that people date, where women are frustrated because they're attracted to this one guy. That guy has no incentive to create a relationship with them, but the women have isolated every other guy out.
How is this any different from not being on an app? I'm sorry, but I'm old enough, although I don't look it. I'm old enough to remember when we didn't have apps at all. And when you had to drive and get directions and stop off at that creepy gas station with a bunch of truckers and you're like, I hope I don't die today. So anyway, how do I get to here? So I fail to see.
So let's take the app out. Let's
take the app out.
So if that were true, like
right.
Isn't dating, we're kind of screwed.
No, not at all. Everything's the same. It's the same. I think what's happening is that's just limiting beliefs and limiting mindsets. What's interesting is I would love to see who they pooled and who they asked. And I wonder if it's only people on that app. Because if that's the case, then your pool system is not people that are already in relationships and married. Because if you ask people who are in marriages and relationships, what are you talking about? They're going to be like, of course I don't believe that. I'm in a marriage and I'm in a relationship. So I think that since the dawn of time, the things that have been around are journaling and meditation and connecting and not connecting, right? And growing in some way. What happens is that Freud, it's the only thing I like of Freud, but there's id, ego, and superego. When we're first born, we're very impulsive. We're ruled by impulses. Then we get into ego and we start learning about other people. We start thinking about other people, right? Some people don't graduate from the id. Some people stay in the impulsivity. Now, I'm sure if you pull a bunch of people who are impulsive and who hate themselves, you're going to get the same answer. But most of us are working on ourselves, even if it's just a little, and even if you're not aware of it. You're trying to grow. You're trying to get better. You're trying to get better in work and school and for your family. You're trying to get better. So you move into what we know as superego. How do I then, once I've learned about myself, how do I then help others? So this is since the dawn of time. Now, the reason why I think we see this and we think that everything's screwed, everything's terrible because, a-holes have taken over and media has gone to like people who are just, radicalized and angry and just say crazy things. And, people who are, picky and gold diggers or whatever is just because it's just the one the algorithm's going to show you. But the rest of us over here have done our inner work, which is a vast majority. We don't feel that way. We don't think that way. We don't believe that way. And what's cool is because as you continue to build your tribe, because your vibe attracts your tribe, as you continue to get around the really good ones, the ones that see you and value you just for being you, and the ones that, ask you to show up for yourself too and care, and that they're around really good people and you're not in that low frequency of dehumanizing and hurting others because you've grown. You see that there's a lot of us around. We're everywhere. We're absolutely everywhere. And you come over to the side and you see what's called it's like a hamster wheel. The toxic ones, the red pill community, the women who are in pain and date really toxic people, they're all in this really small circle. That's it. And you watch them, and it's because they're not healing. They date based on a confirmation bias. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not whatever. I'm not, whatever. I hate women. Women suck. You're in the same circle of abuser meets the abused, meets the victim, it becomes the victim, becomes the abused. It's in the cycle. And that's just since the dawn of time. I think remember we asked earlier, where are we going in life? I think that's part of the point of life. You come in and you hurt, and you want things, and it's painful, and you strive, and you try and overcome your obstacles, and you fall short, and you figure it out. And if you stay in that pain, you stay in that world of those same people who are in that pain. But the whole point is learning what your value systems are, learning what your core values are, learning who your tribe is, who you feel safe to make mistakes with. And you overcome those obstacles. And the reason why is because, man, victory tastes so sweet, and incredible people you respect so much more, and you cherish and honor them so much more when you've overcome your obstacles and you know what it's like to be around people who don't value you. It's the reason why our core values mean so much, because I know what the opposite means. One of the biggest things for me is respect. respect and communication are my top 2 core values because I know what it's like to not be heard, to not be spoken to be ignored, and to be disrespected. And for me to be disrespected, to be disrespectful. I know what that feels like in my body. So when I'm around the people who are full of respect and communication, oh my God, I value them so much. And I can show up for it. I won't be dismissive and, oh yeah, whatever, and complacent because I've gotten to climb over that mountain. There's going to be more mountains, but I'm working on attracting my tribe and being around that tribe that we're down to climb those mountains together.
We've moved as a culture farther and farther away from arranged marriages.
Right? Oh, yeah. And I do coach clients that do have arranged marriages.
Yeah, they exist. Yeah, I have a friend that had an arranged marriage.
Yeah.
But still, as a world culture, we've actually moved farther and farther away from that. Whether the marriage was like religiously arranged or whether it was politically like a family thing or whatever the case may be. But with that, we've also seen an increase in divorce rates.
Right.
So is that a problem within our culture that leads us to having higher divorces? Or is it the fact that we have like less social pressure because our families aren't forcing us together, so they're not particularly invested if we separate? What is that? What's causing divorces to skyrocket?
Let me tell you something. Do you know when a woman was actually allowed to take out her own loan without a male signature?
Sure.
The 80s, right? Before that, women couldn't get out their own loan to take care of their own children. They had to be forced into none of the boomers and anyone did therapy. They really I'm sure some of them did, but they hid it. They were not allowed. You were not allowed to leave a marriage. You were ostracized from your community. You had no money. You couldn't afford to feed your family. You were brutalized and broken. So, and men too, by the way. I've coached a lot of men who had to stay in it for the kids or stay in it because they felt familial pressure and they were getting absolutely abused. I have a client that was abused by a woman for 40 years. 40 years. He was decimated, and he's a tall basketball player, a beautiful human being, and he believed the lies.
How dare you value the tall?
I know, right?
How
I'm so sorry,
you.
but but in the standards of why? Well, he's such a good looking guy, he can have anyone, right? So it's kind of BS to me to sit there and we put our projections on other people. I know, I'm not tall. I'm 5'2", glorious. So. He was brutalized and verbally abused and decimated. And I think there was physical abuse as well by this woman for 40 years, right? So, what? Oh, so, yeah. I'm like, what does that mean? So what we've seen is that because he finally decided to face his family and say, I've had enough, he was able to leave and walk away from that. The reason why divorce rates, and now I will do more research on this so I can give more factual content in what I've studied, what I've seen in over the course of 20 years, is that divorce rates are high currently or were because a lot of people are no longer tolerating abuse, men and women. So I want to be clear about that. Men have been abused too. They are no longer tolerating abuse, and that's a beautiful thing. Why are we looking at divorce as that's a mark of a failure or not failure?
Well, I would say that one of the biggest factors in the success of a child is the atomic family, right? Like the two parents is if you look
at... What study has said that?
Many studies.
There's studies against that too now.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Like almost every shooter, every terrorist, it's
come from abuse, not an atomic...
From what I've understood, and I could be wrong. Like we can look this up.
Yeah.
One of the beauties of podcasts is you get no
information. I know, right?
We have no fact checker. But if that is the case, then divorce could be very bad on the youth. Now that maybe that's not. Maybe that's not the case.
Think so. So what happens with it is that it's what the factor you're talking about is abuse. Abuse is the major indicator of whether or not someone's going to...
It could also be support. It could also be if you've got two parents, you've got 2 points of support. One, if you only have one, you have a single point of support.
There's
and
plenty
they say
of
it takes a village to raise a child.
I mean, sure, but there's plenty of people that have toxicity in the homes with both parents, where they're getting abused by both parents. Mm-hmm. I love my family, but I went out and I shoplifted until I was 29. I got arrested 3 times. I came from a home where there was 2 parents. I have 4. And now they got divorced. My mom got remarried, so I always had that atomic structure. But there was a toxicity in the household. So this atomic structure thing, I think what's happening is you're doing a correlation fallacy.
Well, this from what I understand, this is data outside of me.
Right? No, right. Yeah. Sorry, they're doing a correlation fallacy. So what I've studied and what we've studied, and I did psychological abuse. We did child psychology as well. There is no right or wrong way to like raise a kid. You're kind of like, oh, it depends on the kid. Obviously, not abuse. But what we've seen is things when it comes to like adults are harming others. It was actually not whether or not the parent was single or not. It was whether or not there was abuse in the household.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I've heard that even outside of like socioeconomics, right? Like the poor or rich, it matters more whether it's a single family or not. Anyways,
Yeah,
but maybe that's incorrect.
Yeah,
So,
but I would love to see it because I think what they missed, and it's probably more like if there was actually abuse in the household with it. Now, don't get me wrong. There's definitely people who have felt like they don't have what they need because they didn't have a father figure in the house or a mother figure in the house. But to be fair, like even if they did, they still would have their brain still would have found a way to create limiting beliefs and then have that. They're just sitting there going like, it must be this. It's got to be this thing right here. If that were the case, then it would be like, I don't know. Then anyone who had a single parent would automatically be bad and a shooter and a gun shooter or like a toxic person.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be the case, but I mean, you could say that if I mean, it's possible, but
right,
it's worth diving into.
How many people do you know have a single parent and they like cherish that parent? Yeah, exactly. So
well, especially if it's your only bastion of like salvation.
Yes.
Of course you're gonna love that one parent.
Yeah.
But that also means that you might have. I can see it both sides on this, but
yeah.
I can definitely see where like, I mean, ideally I would love to have 5 or 20 parents. You know, like I'd love as big of a support system as I can. And I think it's fascinating that finances apparently were not the primary reason behind that. But
only if you can. Sorry, the finance. As far as the financial thing, as long as your basic needs are met, then more money does not actually have any correlation with happiness.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if that's related to childhood. You know. Okay, so as a dating coach, I've got to ask you, why are you single?
Oh, who says I'm single?
She did.
I date. I love dating. I'm a dating coach who loves dating. I absolutely love it. I'm in the trenches with you guys. Like I actually practice on myself. I'm someone that I used to date, and whenever I dated, I did my confirmation bias, and I dated atrocious, toxic, abusive people. My friendships used to be extremely abusive as well too. Female friends. So for me, what happened is I wound up learning how to fall in love with myself and getting to pass that on. And for me, what I teach is I teach being authentic, and I teach finding the right ones for you. It's why I do career in dating. I absolutely know how to go into a room and pick like better partners, but I also know that when I'm picking someone, if it is someone that's I picked based on my wounds, I know how to turn and face that and like move through it, right? I know how to heal from that. So for me, what's really important is I would rather teach people how to fall in love with themselves and teach them how to get whatever they want. For me, what I want is I want to know I made a difference in the world. It's not as important for me to have a family. That's not part of my core values. My core values are respect, communication, humanitarianism, joy/humor, and freedom and spirituality. Those are my top core values. And I've gotten to meet incredible people based on those core values. Obviously, our friend over there is one of, you can't see her, but we've got a friend over there. And
she's not real.
She's real now. There's a fake friend that I have. I have a fake friend now. I teach her out of imaginary friends. So for me, I teach based on who are you as a person, and then what are your boundaries, and start saying no to what's not for you and yes to what's for you. But it matters more to my heart to be able to overcome my own fears of being seen and get to make a difference in the world and help other people. And I already know that I've met amazing people along the way, and I'm going to continue to. I'm not afraid of divorce. I'm not afraid of being in a relationship and it not working out, because I've learned and I've grown each time, and I've met better men and better women, and I've grown, and then I've met better men and better women, and so many times. So for me, I'm someone that I don't believe in settling down, and I will never, ever, ever in a million years coach anyone to settle down, because I don't know, you're scared. I'm not scared.
You're focused on working on yourself all the time.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's all this personal development.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you want to be remembered?
Oh God, there's only smart ass comments coming up in my head.
That's all you got. Sarcastic. I want to be honest.
I want to be known as like the girl that was really sarcastic. I want to be known as someone who made a difference, who mattered to someone, you know, or mattered. That's not the right word, but I want to be known as someone who fought, who showed up, and who fought for others. And that's what I care about more of. You know, I'm very big on humanitarianism. We see the way the world's going on right now. This last week has been extremely full of depressing energy and full of hope, because we've been here before. The world's been here before. America's been here before. People have already been living this for a long time. And so for me, I'm more focused on, I love that there's people out there that want to have a family and pass on amazing belief systems to their children. That is important. That's a legacy. I want to coach those people who want to pass that on. I don't have that. I want to pass on good things to the world. So, if someone's down to join me on that, great. But I've moved past the need to be with someone else to validate myself.
Thank you for really kind of opening up your heart and showing who you are.
I
really appreciate it. It takes a lot of courage to be that way. Can you share with me where people can find you if they want to connect, if they want to work with you?
Yes. So you can find me at lovecoach247.com. Also on all of my social media channels is Natalie Stavola. But even if you say Stravola, you'll find me. So Natalie Stavola.
I'll get that URL.
Yeah, I know, right? Everyone's going to be like, where's Stravola at? I've been called that before. I love it. So yeah, Natalie Stavola, lovecoach247.com. You can also email me at natalie@lovecoach247.com. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.